Or if you're good with it, we can kind of start whenever. Does that sound good to you? Okay. Well, for minutes and recording purposes, welcome to the July 12th Plan TAC meeting. Thank you to all those in attendance. We'll kind of keep an eye on who pops in. I know it's kind of an early start here. For introductions, I'm just going to run through each community alphabetically. So if you are here from that community, if you would unmute and state your name or state that you're here, that would be great. And then maybe for those that join later, we'll see if we can kind of catch up as they sign on. But let's start with Alta. Bluffdale.
Grant Kroll, Bluffdale.
Great. Brighton. Copperton. For Cottonwood Heights, I'm here, and our Community Development Director, Mike Johnson, is here. Draper. Emigration Canyon. Harriman.
Here.
Oh, thanks, Matt. Harriman. I know Mike Malloy is here. There he is.
I'm director.
Thanks. Holiday. Kearns. Magna.
Here also.
Great. Yeah, thanks for the MSD representation. Midvale.
Adam Olson, Midvale.
Great. Mill Creek. Murray. Riverton.
Matt Castle, Riverton.
Thanks, Matt. Salt Lake City. Salt Lake County. Sandy.
Brittany Ward, Sandy City.
Thanks. South Jordan. South Salt Lake. Taylorsville. West Jordan. West Valley. Oh, thank you so much. West Valley City. White City. UDOT.
Jeff Dupait and
Yes.
Stephanie Tomlin.
Thank you, Jeff.
Perfect. Thanks for being here. How about UTA?
Matt Gray with UTA Planning.
Great. Thanks for being here. Federal Highways. Okay, and then we've got, I know, a handful of great WFRC staff on the call. Jory, I don't know I think in past meetings you've kind of introduced your team, but I can try to do that through the tiles if you'd prefer.
I can do it real quick. Jory Johnner, Ted Knowlton, Andrew Gruber, Hugh Van Wagenen, Mike Sobchak, Julie Bjornstedt, Lauren Victor, Megan Townsend, Christy Dahlberg, Bert Granberg, Jordan Chandler, and Sarah Lawless. So we've got WFRCs in the house.
Nice. Yeah, very strong showing from WFRC. Great. And then for some of our community partner groups, do we have anyone from Jordan School District today? Let's see, trying to see if anyone's unmuting. How about Envision Utah? Avenue Consultants.
Cody Lutz here with Envision.
Oh, great. Hey, Cody. Let's see, I didn't see anyone from Avenue. Let's see, WCG. Bike Utah. And Somas. I thought
I'm here with Somas. This is Chris Hupp.
Perfect. There we go. And then who did I miss? Anybody who signed on or who I didn't call? Would you unmute and introduce yourselves? Okay, then I'm going to assume we got everybody. If anyone wants to drop an introduction into the chat, that's great as well. Okay, so first things first on our agenda, let's look at our minutes. The minutes from the April 26th meeting were linked in the agenda sent by Jordan, so hopefully everyone had a chance to maybe look through those. I am looking for a motion to approve these minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Great, we have a motion. Thank you, brave soul. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, if any? Okay, motion passes unanimously. The April 26th minutes are approved. Moving on to our more business agenda items. Let's start with the TIF and TTIF project nominations. Stephanie, I have your name on this one. Would you be willing to kick that off?
Yeah, happy to. Thanks, Samantha. Hi, everyone. Stephanie Tomlin with UDOT. I'm the new Trails Division leader for the new funding for the Utah Trail Network, but I'm actually not here to talk about that. I'm here to talk about my previous role at UDOT, which was overseeing the project prioritization process, and excited to kind of give you all some updates on where we are with that process, and especially related to the fact that we are now open for project nominations. So I believe in the agenda that's in the chat, and then I will add this link again in the chat just to make it easy. I just put in the chat the project prioritization website. This is, if you're interested at all in the TIF and the TTIF, this is your resource. This has pretty much everything, not pretty much, this has everything. And if it doesn't have something, let me know because it will need to be added to it. But this is the clearinghouse for all things TIF and TTIF. So a couple of weeks ago, we opened the project nomination window. So you can see on the website up top, there should be a blue bar and it gives you the information that says that we're accepting nominations, and then there's a little box to take you to the nomination window. So I'll start by just giving some updates about the TIF and the TTIF that are relevant, and then I'll talk about some of the frequently asked questions that would help inform how you all potentially nominate projects for TIF and TTIF. And then, I'll share my screen and just show on the nominations website. or the nomination tab, just so it's crystal clear on where you would go if you wanted to nominate a project. So a couple of the relevant updates for TIF, that stands for Transportation Investment Fund. There's two programs that the UDOT and through the Utah Transportation Commission can program dollars for. One is the TIF Active and the other is the TIF Highway. So both of those programs are open for nominations. The TIF Active Fund, that is for pedestrian or non-motorized paved facilities that demonstrate a congestion reduction on a state facility. It does require a 40% match. So something for everyone to keep in mind is that it does have a 40% match requirement. There's on the FAQ page, there's a lot of information about what can be used as a match. But generally speaking, it's pretty much anything except for other UDOT administered state funding. So this funding is for project construction for active transportation projects, multi-use trails, bike lanes, buffered bike lanes, pedestrian overpasses, things like that. So that's the TIF Active. TIF Highway, I can talk more about this if that's if people want more information, but generally speaking, we take phase one fiscally constrained projects from the Unified Transportation Plan. They have to be over $5 million, and we will automatically kind of put those into the project prioritization model for funding consideration. Then we have the TTIF, which stands for Transit Transportation Investment Fund. So there's two programs out of that. There's transit, and then there's first and last mile projects. So this one it's worth kind of taking a quick moment to let you all know that fund, the match requirement for TTIF changed this last legislative session. It used to be the same 40% that the TIF Active is, but it actually went down this last legislative session. So now there's a 30% match required. So that is for both the TTIF first last mile and the TTIF transit funds. TTIF first last mile is similar to TIF active in that it is a nomination based process. So you would nominate your projects in the within the nomination tab, and then we'll develop a ranked list based on all those nominations, and that's then what will be used for funding consideration by the Transportation Commission. So some other kind of notes, if you've heard about TIF and TTIF in the past, if you've nominated a project, we haven't asked that you renominate it, but this year that's changing. We are asking you to renominate any projects that you've nominated in the past. And I anticipate that that will be kind of the, that'll be what we ask moving forward. So the reason for that is that we've gone through an extensive update to the models that we use to rank those projects. And at this point, we just need a refresh. We need a full refresh on the list as well. It's proven pretty cumbersome to try and pull projects from past runs back in. We've run into issues with cost estimates when we do that. So at this point, we're just saying, okay, like just need a full refresh list. The nice thing is that really the nomination process, we designed it intentionally to be pretty, I don't know if I should say simple or easy, but at least it's not a huge lift. So we hope that by asking that it's not hugely onerous on anyone to renominate, but that is something to note. I don't want someone to feel like, oh, in the past, if we didn't get a project funded, you guys just took the project. And I'm telling you all now that yes, please renominate projects if you nominated them in the past and they didn't get funded and you're still interested in them. Okay, I think those are all the major points. And so I'll just share my screen really quick and show the website. So if you, so if you come here to the website again, this is that first page. This will give you a lot of great information if you don't, if you'd like to understand more about TIF and TTIF, you want to understand more.
It looks like you're sharing the screen with the agenda on it, not the website one. Just
thank you.
Just so you know.
Yeah, I don't want to share that. Let's see. How about this? Is this working?
Yeah, perfect. We're seeing that now.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for letting me know. So yeah, this is the homepage. It'll give you information if you want to learn more about what TIF and TTIF are. It'll talk, it goes through the bills and the codes that outline kind of what this funding can be used for. All of this, it all has to go through the Utah Transportation Commission. So if you want to understand more about what the presentations are that we've given and kind of the update there, you can click on this link. And then I'll talk about this in a moment, but this model documentation. So as I was alluding to, when you nominate a project, it gets added to the list that goes through a prioritization model. This is the documentation of that model, or those models, I guess I should say, because there's four, one for each mode. If you scroll down, there's the current TIF and TTIF ranked lists, and then there's information on the moderate income housing, because this is a requirement that we take into consideration communities' moderate income housing status. And so if you're interested to learn more about how we use that and a map that shows moderate income housing compliance status, that you can find that there. So I'm just going to scroll back up. So if you go here to this nominations tab, this is where you will go to nominate. You can see here that we've indicated the nomination window. And then these little buttons, these are the links to the Google Forms for each one of the nomination types. But before I go there, I want to go over to this frequently asked questions. So that's up here. This has a wealth of information about what types of projects you can nominate, what the requirements are. If you're interested to learn more about how the legislative session happened and the updates to this prioritization process, I have a link to WFRC's really great wrap up as well. And then, outlining kind of how this is a different process than the ATIF, which is the Utah Trail Network, and just indicating that this is not the same thing, and UDOT's approaching that differently. But I really like this button here, what makes for a successful nomination project. Over the years, I think we've learned and try to be more upfront about what a successful project candidate looks like. So it's something to draw your attention to. But again, there's a lot of information, and if there's something that's not on here that you have a question about, if you scroll to the bottom of the page, you can submit any questions or comments here, and we do monitor this, so feel free and reach out. So then back to nominations, it's pretty straightforward. If you have a TIF active project that you would like to nominate, go ahead and just click on the button, and you can see here it opens up to the form. If you want to see the whole nomination form before actually filling it out, you can click here and it will pull up a PDF of the nomination form. So yeah, there's definitely some options there to see the whole list, but that's pretty simply, that's all you have to do. And again, there's a button for each one of the project types. So with that, I think I've given a pretty extensive overview, so I'll stop sharing. And if there's any specific questions that anyone has about TIF or TTIF and the nomination window, I'll be happy to answer them. Okay, great. Well, thank you so much. Looking forward to the project nominations. And again, use that website and reach out if there's anything else. And thank you, WFRC and this group, for having us on to give an update about this. Appreciate being able to get the information out.
Stephanie, I was wondering, with your change in role with UDOT, do you have an updated contact for who's the contact for this program that people should email with questions?
Yeah, I think the best option in this, yes, you bring up a good point, Samantha, with just some transition happening. I think, the best option is to use the submit your questions or comments here form, because that one's going to be, monitored despite, no matter what, and it's not tied to a specific email address. You can certainly reach out to me and I can forward stuff, along as needed, but I think the best option, honestly, is that submit questions, because that's going to be monitored moving forward.
Okay, that sounds great. So for anybody wanting to submit questions, you can do that through the web page there, which is linked in the agenda from today. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that update, Stephanie.
Yeah.
So, Samantha, WFRC would be more than happy to help the local communities. If there's questions or thoughts about projects or the process, we've been kind of hand in hand with UDOT as they've been redoing the prioritization process, and we've got a good working relationship with them. So as they transition, we can help kind of connect those dots as well. So anybody that has questions, reach out to myself or anybody else at WFRC, and we'll get you in touch with the right person. I did have one question, Steph. Is this an annual nomination process? So if a community's on the fence, but they're if they should nominate a project or if they should wait another year, where would you lean them or steer them to doing? Should they wait, or should they throw it in right now?
Yeah, Jory, that's a great question. And I think our kind of timeline for coming up with a new ranked list is so the nomination window will close. We'll use the new unified plan that has the new project list, and we're going to develop right away. We're going to develop a new ranked list. So that it will become active pretty much right after that nomination window. So the link on the website that says ranked lists, we'll update that with the new one. I don't have a concrete answer on like when that new ranked list is going to be used for programming. That's that's higher up, and there's we have to look at things like cash flow and different stuff like that. I think I would put it back to the communities to say, to really balance this, like, is your project, back to my the FAQ and the one that says, what makes for a good project nomination. One of those bullets on there is that you have a pretty reasonable cost estimate. This is, something more than just a per mile, like you've gone in and done some level of design. Like we recommend that because we do fund the project based on those cost estimates. So I think I would encourage people, if the project has gone through some level of costing, it might be a good thing to get it in the mix sooner rather than later. But I also don't know the answer if it's annually. I think generally speaking, that's what we've done in the past, but it's kind of an evolving process, and it really depends on available funding and things like that. So sorry that it's not super concrete, but I think if I were in a city, I would be considering how kind of firm is my cost estimate, and how much support is there for this specific project. And if the answer to those things are, yeah, they're pretty far along, and yes, we have support, probably a good, a great time to get it nominated. So.
Thanks. Maybe one clarification, Steph, that you'd mentioned the unified plan. This group may not know exactly what that is, but just so everybody knows that all the MPOs in the state create the regional transportation, or a regional transportation plan for their area. So we just adopted ours in May, and that plan rolls into the statewide unified transportation plan. So look to the WFRC RTP recently adopted for those types of projects.
Great question, Jory. And for those who are just joining the meeting, I'm just putting the link one more time to the UDOT webpage for the TIF and TTIF information, if you want to learn more about that. And welcome to all the members who have signed on. And for those of you who have joined but not put your name and community in the chat, if you would add that, that'll help us with the minutes later on. Moving on to our next agenda item. One topic of interest or idea has been having on these calls a community highlight, where we can share some of the work being done by participating communities in this Plan TAC group. And the hope, I think, in doing these is that we can better connect staff from different communities with one another, to maybe support each other on similar projects, but also to share ideas for future projects, maybe. So to kick things off, I think it's only fair that I'm the guinea pig for this. So I'll go first with Cottonwood Heights, and just wanted to share today a few of the things we're working on. And I will mention that I'm planning to reach out to communities, and just kind of rotate through our list and ask if you would share an update as well. So if you hear from me about that, I hope you'd be willing to share some of the good work you're doing. I'm going to share 3 things we've been working on here in Cottonwood Heights. The first is an update to our general plan. So using TLC funding, we're updating our general plan. This is long overdue. Our current plan is from 2005 when the city incorporated. So outside of just being an opportunity to update an older plan, it also has been an opportunity to bring our plan into compliance with some of the state legislative requirements that now require water to be part of a general plan. And it's also given us an opportunity to incorporate different recommendations from master plans that were past projects, as well as to incorporate some new components like a form-based code. So we're going through this general plan update process right now, again, engaging specifically with the statutory requirements to include a water element in our plan. So if you are doing the same in your community, which I hope everyone kind of has their minds on that, since it is a requirement, we would be delighted to connect with you if you have takeaways from your own experience or questions about how we've done our general plan update. please reach out. And the same goes for a form-based code as well. Again, we're doing that as kind of part of our general plan update. Moving into a little bit of a more specific scope, we are also doing a town center master plan. So through a separate round of TLC funding, we are planning a town center for Cottonwood Heights, a site-specific town center. So the city recently acquired Hillside Plaza, which is about 10 acres. It's a largely vacant strip mall. It was originally built in the 70s. And we'll be engaging with a consultant to do a site master plan for this. And it will be a public process that I imagine will generate a lot of public interest and input. The site is surrounded by existing residential neighborhoods. So I think there's a lot of passionate people who will have something to say about this project, but we're just still in the stages of consultant selection. But I think once we kick it off, again, if you're doing something similar or are wanting to, or have done it already and have feedback, it's very helpful, I think, to have those conversations and to learn from one another's processes. And then the last thing I'm going to share from Cottonwood Heights is just a much smaller scale. It's not really a regional grant project or anything large and really flashy. It's just kind of one of those ongoing small scale things that also has to happen in a planning department. And that's ongoing city code maintenance. So we have been going through our city code over the past year. We take one chapter a week and we dive into it and note all of the little minor technical issues that are in that chapter, and log it, and then kind of systematically take batches of those things to be updated with our planning commission and city council. And through this process of kind of just chipping away at it week by week, we've been able to fix nothing, it's not super major things, but it's those little annoyances with a code where there's conflicting definitions, or there's a lack of clarity on a procedure, or there's just outdated standards. And so that's been really helpful for us to just sort of chip away at it. And so I hope that also might be a helpful idea to just do it chapter by chapter, week by week, for anyone dealing with an older code as well. So yeah, those are the three things I wanted to share as just a really brief highlight on Cottonwood Heights. Again, I'm hoping to hear more about some of the work that these other communities are doing. And I hope that when I email you to ask you to share that, you are willing and maybe even excited. So moving on to our next item. This one's also me. I feel like I'm just talking a lot for a few minutes here. On the similar topic of kind of future meetings and future discussion items, I did want to just put the question out there of what future topics would be valuable for the communities on this call. Where we only meet quarterly, I would love to be sure that the things we're talking about are significant to you and helpful for your day-to-day. Two ideas that I know have been shared before are a discussion on short-term rentals and kind of maybe policies and enforcement and changing standards there. And then also the moderate income housing report process that many of us are working through. So those are two ideas that I think could be topical, but I wanted to open it up. Does anyone have ideas or requests of things you think would be relevant?
Samantha, I'd add, normally I think WFRC has a pretty heavy hand in creating these agendas, partly because we have, tasks or work items we're working on that we want to bring forward in front of our planners. That being said, having 5 hour-and-a-half meetings a year, we're 100% open and would love, local communities or our transportation partners, if you all wanted to have a discussion or a topic, let us know so we can get it queued up and find the right speakers or presenters. Because we sometimes struggle to figure out those agenda items, but we want to make this as interactive and as useful as possible. So
yeah, WFRC staff does such a good job of kind of keeping a pulse on what the current issues and projects are. So I think think we have a lot to pull from. But yeah, want to open it up on an ongoing basis. If folks want to email me, or I'm sure email Jory with ideas, I'm going to drop my email in the chat as well.
Samantha, I wonder about if y'all like the idea of throwing ideas almost brainstorm style in the chat box.
Yeah, that'd be great. I think that's a great idea. If you have ideas, even if it's just sort of more general topics like water, having a water item as a recurring agenda item, I think could be very topical. So yeah, feel free to use the chat as well. I think that's great.
Samantha, I'd even add, like, don't be shy on adding an item. We won't peg you specifically to present on it, right? I know sometimes people don't want to bring something up because then they're going to get pinned with
No, if people put something in the chat, I'm going to immediately call on them to present, like today.
Right now.
Jay, I see you shared a link there. So did you want to add anything about that, or just share that with the group?
Sure, I'm just adding the link to the statewide long range plan, the
Oh,
current
great.
draft that's at the top for public comment. Take a look at that, and it mostly covers the rural areas, but hopefully it'll be of interest to everyone.
Great, thank you for sharing that.
Taking comment until the 25th of July.
Okay, perfect. And is that on there? That date?
Yes, it should be.
Okay, perfect. Well, keep topics in mind. I think everyone's always very open to other things. Scott, I just saw you raise your hand.
Yeah, this is kind of a recurring thing every year. The legislature introduces new bills, and it would, I think, be helpful as a region to kind of tackle or be consistent on how we're dealing with these new laws that are coming into effect. For example, SB 174 was adopted, and that really changes how we deal with our review of subdivision plats. And I know that there's some questions on how you define certain things, but we're doing our best to be proactive here in West Jordan. But it would be wonderful to just generally discuss whether it's 174 or other bills that come out every year. And maybe if we can just schedule our meetings soon after the session wraps up, we can maybe tackle some of those things. But just a thought there.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. The Utah legislative session is so short and so robust that there's a lot to follow. And I know for communities like Cottonwood Heights with kind of a smaller staff, the bandwidth there to adequately dive into every single piece can be really hard. So I think kind of harnessing the regional group there would be great. And I see, Kayla, you added some suggestions on the moderate income housing reporting process. So I appreciate that info. Okay, let's go ahead and move to our next item. Feel free to keep dropping suggestions throughout as maybe they come to you. But I'm going to turn it over now to Ted to talk a little bit about the Wasatch Choice Street typology.
Okay, thanks, Madam Chair. And I presume you all can see my screen. Here's the main thing. We have a draft shared foundation to start the conversation about how to fit roads function and design with the adjacent context, right? So we have a nerdly phrase to call that context sensitive design, but there's a draft map that is intended to be the starting place to have that shared conversation, let's say between a community and UDOT or UTA or what have you. And the opportunity and the ask right now is, hey, will you take a look at that draft and help us refine it as a shared product? Let me give you a little bit of background. This basic idea of fitting design and function with surrounding context. You can it can be illustrated with University Avenue in Provo. You know, a stretch of University Avenue in the image above, that street design and function, it makes sense for it to be different than when University Avenue goes into downtown Provo, where there is more of a kind of a fixed guideway, bus rapid transit kind of environment. It makes sense to have them be different. When we know that when the design and function of a street matches its context, there are two big outcomes that occur. One, things are safer, people are safer, pedestrians, bicyclists, or what have you, if they're present, are safer, cars are safer, safety, one. Two, there's better economic activity, more economic activity when you fit the two things to each other. Now, that could be that you're supporting an industry in an industrial area, or let's say you're supporting more intense development within your town center, right? The idea with this is that all of the partners have gotten together under this topic of the Wasatch Choice. We call it Wasatch Choice Great Streets. Let's have great streets that support Wasatch Choice. And the framework that you're going to look at focuses on the Wasatch Choice centers. The idea is, hey, at least as a starting point, let's see if we can come out with a framework that works out a starting place again for context-sensitive design in these places where we might be trying to do something that is decidedly a little bit a different kind of context, a center. So there is a street typology. We sent the link out to you a few days ago. I'll put it again in the chat unless somebody beats me to it. But here are the types. There are they range from those that are more pedestrian oriented to those that are more automobile oriented. Main streets down to major corridors and types in between. I think the big difference, the big maybe thing to note that's perhaps not entirely obvious is a supporting street is this kind of a street that doesn't have a primary function either as a place or for mobility. It kind of supports these other functions. This diagram to the right kind of gives you a sense. You know, there might be a major corridor on the edge of a center that really serves an important auto movement, freight movement function. Its design should vary from a corridor versus a main street that perhaps has a core emphasis on being walkable and the like. So there in the interactive map that we've sent out that is used to help you, you know, identify how you might tweak the street types in your centers. There is a link to the document. Let me go to the document really quick. I'm only going to just show you one or two just to give you a sense of what this looks like. So within the document, the types are illustrated and there are principles associated with each. There are examples across the region that give you a sense of what that street type would be like, and examples from abroad or outside of our region. And then it breaks it down a bit. What are those contextual assumptions for land development and then also for the street itself? And it kind of breaks it down a little bit. The idea here is, hey, let's have a starting place where, again, you know, the transportation agencies that might be part of working out the details on a street and the community sort of have, okay, well, let's start the conversation together from a shared foundation, the street type in the Wasatch Choice Great Streets. Now, I will go back to my presentation, round it out, and then see if you've got any questions about it. This is when I ask myself, Ted, have you been on mute this whole time?
No, we can hear you. You're good.
That is good. I think I'm gonna have to stop sharing in order to give you the link. But this is an image of the actual interactive map, and you'll see that, you know, there are street types within centers. You'll click on one of those and you can suggest a change to that as well. I'm highlighting, we are asking for your comments. If you can, get them to us by July 21st. That's a week from Friday. If you know right now that, hey, we need more time, just tell us, hey, we'd like more time. And then where are we headed? We're test driving this as kind of a product that will evolve over time. So we may have some additions to this. UDOT itself is doing a deep dive into this question. More to come on that. An important thing to note here is, how would you take this product and use it? One key way that you can build off of this process is through the Transportation and Land Use Connection Program. So that is the Dog and Pony Show about this, I think, really important and hopefully really useful foundation, the Wasatch Choice Great Streets. Love to hear if you've got some thoughts, suggestions, questions at this time, and I'll stop sharing and drop the link into the chat bar.
It looks like Jordan dropped it in, so I think you're
Okay, great.
actually good if it is that ArcGIS.
That is it. Yes, thanks, Jordan.
And I know we have a few things that got a few questions in the chat, but maybe before we do the chat box ones, does anyone want to unmute and share a question for Ted?
And I can work off of Mayor Burton, great question. Mayor, the reason why we didn't put residential streets in there is more because they're under local government purview by themselves. And so it's not a cross-agency kind of issue to work out fitting a street to its context. We all should do that, but that's more within the local government sphere alone.
That's a helpful clarification. Appreciate that. And we have one from Matt Starley, who asks, will this document affect or integrate with the corridor agreement process?
Yeah, I mean, I'll turn to our friends at UDOT to talk about that a little bit more. But I keep using the term, it's the starting place to have the conversation. And then the ending place of that conversation, it would find its way into a corridor agreement. Angelo?
Yeah, I'm not sure I can answer that second question. I was going to talk in general about where we are with the UDOT's effort on context classification, okay? And I know that Lindsay Hansen, I believe, is leading it for us. I can't remember her last name, but we meet all the time. And where we are right now is we have identified 8 different context classifications that we're going to roll out, and we're going to be meeting with you guys soon, Ted, on that. Lindsay will be setting up a meeting, but our 8 classifications are rural town, industrial, suburban residential, suburban commercial, urban core, urban, and industrial. Okay, and so those are our 8 categories. We're defining those. We're putting examples to those right now. And we've been coordinating with you guys, on definitions. We're going to continue that as we're further defining it. We met yesterday, and we're ready to take the step of really getting some firm definitions like density types and housing and things like that into the definitions for context. Okay, so that's where we are. We're moving forward in UDOT terms fairly rapidly with this. Still we've got a lot of work to do, but I know that yesterday they talked about the next steps are going to be meeting with Wasatch Front and MPOs to have some discussion on this. And then right now, we don't have complete UDOT leadership buy-in yet to it, but I think we're in a pretty good position for these categories. Okay.
Angelo, can I do a quick add-on on that? This is part of what I'm talking about this being evolving. So, these are street types. Now they may refine and evolve as they're dovetailed with this other conversations that are happening, like what Angela was talking about. I do want to highlight, Dennis asked a great question, which I wanted to clarify this already. These are not about imposing standards on anybody, not on UDOT or local governments, but there's in talking through this with partners, there was a shared sense that, it would be great if we had a starting point to have a conversation and coalesce a little bit around generalized street types. So these are intended to be what a basic approach, principles for shared consideration, not imposing standards. Please take a look. Tell us what you think. This is a process for refinement, but I just want to clarify, it's not intended to impose or even imply standards, but rather, again, a starting point for a shared conversation.
So with that map, it shows the planned projects. Is there any way that we could get existing so that we can see how they already connect?
Sorry, Chris, the existing, what?
The existing, so like you look at your plan and it shows specific types of routes that are being planned, like whether it's a road or whatever. Is there any way that we can connect those to see what the total network looks like?
Chris,
Yeah.
this is Hugh with WFRC, and I think I know what you're asking. I'm going to respond in this way, and anybody else, please help me out. That the reason it looks disconnected from the networks is because we're just looking at the Wasatch Choice Center specifically, and these do include, so that they're not necessarily planned roads. It could be in some communities that they plan for a road to be different than it is today. Some of these are what the current condition is as well. And so are you asking that, how would we classify these streets outside of the centers, and can that be shown? Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah, like how do they connect with the whole system? Yeah, there's these little patches, but like, is it fixing issues that are already existing? Is it connecting to existing systems to make them improved? Like what's the overall takeaway from it?
Chris, I think why we only see them in the centers is what we're trying to acknowledge here is that as a road moves through, goes from a less developed area or a less centered area into a centered area, we're expecting to have more pedestrians, more bicyclists, more transit users. The land uses are changing. And so there's an inherent difference in how a road might need to function depending on its land use surroundings. So even though it looks disconnected, because we're just showing those centers and that typology, we're acknowledging that, as you get into downtown Salt Lake, for instance, 7th East is going to need a change between what it might look like between 27th South and 33rd South and what it looks like above 4th South. So we're just saying in this center, let's start having a conversation about, does the road design, the road speed, the road use need to change as we enter these different areas where we're expecting different activity to be occurring.
Yeah, I understand that part. Sorry, what I'm trying to get at is, in order to get to these centers without using a car, what are the existing systems to get us there? Or are we just focusing on the centers, and then the next phase would be looking at connecting to those centers? Or can that map show what existing infrastructure is there to get us to those centers so that we can say, this is where we actually have existing gaps to get to these centers, or we're actually good in this area?
So are you asking just put the bike and ped infrastructure and the transit infrastructure and not just show roads that might have all of those components on them?
Exactly.
Chris, I really like this. And I guess one thing to note is that if you fast forward towards how this might land, it would be part of an interactive map system that lets you turn on and off different layers that relate to existing network plus planned network, so that you could see these things within context. And a little bit of this is also related to just the process of our work together in regional transportation planning. But I want to give you a sense of the document, or that map link that you've got now is not really the final deliverable. That's just to help us kind of refine that draft together.
Ted, I wonder if you could kind of leave us with a description of how you envision staff using this just on a day-to-day basis or a regular basis as a tool.
Well, I think you could, if you wanted, you could consider how your plans and your standards, you could consider it, relate to these street types. And then, you know, if you feel like the street types themselves are off, you know, then we'll just change them to change the type to be something that matches more closely what you want to do and accomplish in your community. But, you know, it could be useful to help you have a conversation about your plans and your standards, one. And then two, let's say that there's an opportunity or need to modify the street, you know, and you're going to be working through some things with UDOT or possibly UTA. Again, the idea is that as you work through those details, that together you would consider this as that shared starting point.
Okay, so it sounds like it's going to be a helpful reference for communities to maybe look to as they're considering changes in these corridors, and maybe wanting to do it in a way that's consistent with the regional vision.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you for that. I wanted to also just confirm, so for people to give feedback on this, are you wanting that to all come through the comment feature on that GIS portal?
Yes, if you've got general comments though on the document and the usage of it, just email me, ted@wfrc.org. I'm not working on this alone, but I can be the point person for gathering those comments.
Okay, and then
we'd love to hear that.
Remind me, when do you want the feedback by?
We'd love to get feedback on the street types themselves, if you can, by the end of next week. If
Okay.
you know that you need more time, that's fine. Just let us know.
Okay.
That's the request.
Awesome. I saw Mike, you just unmuted. Did you have something to add?
Yeah, maybe you said this already, so I apologize. The street types that are already loaded into the map, where did these come from? And are we giving comments on what's existing or what we envision?
Okay, that's great, Mike. So second question first. I suggest that you base your comments on what you want to have happen, your plan, your future desired end state for a road. And honestly, we developed the draft as a starting place, best guess, to just get the conversation going, working with our consultants and others. So, you know, we're not warranting it as a perfect fit. We just thought it's easier to comment on a draft rather than come up with something from scratch. So yeah, by all means, change them away, you know.
Okay.
I appreciate the reference of having something to look at to give comments instead of being at square one. Sorry, Mike, didn't mean to cut you off there.
I was just saying thank you.
Oh, okay. Grant, I saw that you just unmuted. Did you want to add anything? No, okay. Awesome, just making sure. Let me just flip through the screens, make sure no one's got their hand up. Okay, well, oh wait.
Ted, did you see Dennis's question or comment, I guess?
He did, yeah.
Okay, very good, sorry.
And I will note that I think some of the earlier chat comments that were shared when we were kind of brainstorming topic ideas for Plan TAC could also be relevant. There were some comments from Nestor about kind of looking at or analyzing how we balance traffic calming measures like more narrow roads with safety standards for fire code and emergency access. And then also some comments from Jay about best practices for reducing excessive speed, inattentive driving, and road rage. So I would imagine that looking at street types and different context sensitive designs could tie into probably both of those topics as well.
Yeah, those are on point, those comments, and I think there's more options than just narrowness. There's also protection and other solutions as well.
Awesome. Well, this sounds like an exciting project, and I hope that we'll get to hear more about it as it moves forward. Let's go ahead and hand things over to Hugh. Hugh, do you want to give us an update on the Golden Wheels bike network and the Sandy? I don't know if it's Matt or MATT, so maybe you can tell me.
Yeah, thanks, Samantha. And it is Matt. And I'll do that one first, just because I'm sticking stuff in the chat already about it, and Brittany with Sandy's on the call at the moment. And for those that aren't familiar, MAT is what our acronym for Mobile Active Transportation Tour. And these are tours, biking, walking tours that we do with our partners and have done for a number of years in various forms. And Sandy City, we've been working with them, and Brittany's done a ton of work to put a route together in the Sandy sort of Cairns district, the downtown district. Speaking of centers, right, we've just came off that topic with the roadways, and to give us a tour about what's working down there, some barriers that they have, what they're looking forward to the future, in addition to having some scooters and e-bikes available for folks that want to attend as well. So again, thanks to Brittany for setting all that up. This is occurring on August 11th. It's Friday, August 11th at 8:30 a.m. Meeting at the Sandy Civic Track Station. So you can get there by transit and then, hop on a bike with us to do this tour. It'll be a couple of hours. It's very light riding, and, it's not like this robust physical activity, and especially with the e-bikes and the e-scooters that will be available, and we'll be stopping and talking, about various aspects of what they have going on down there. So please join us if you can, invite others. These are always valuable opportunities to learn from our peers and, brainstorm together on challenges and learn from successes. So August 11th, I'll transition now to the Golden Wheel, what you mentioned. And ironically enough, let's see, let's do this and this. Golden Wheels, don't make that seem like it's the be all end all name of this planning project we've been working on and talking about. But to Chris's point earlier, when we were talking about great streets, we'd really like to undertake an effort to focus on great active transportation connections between Wasatch Choice centers. So this plays into the great streets thing as well, how to connect people center to center, getting in those centers, right? A lot of daily needs are met there, a lot of destinations are there, and we want to be able to get people to those places directly in a comfortable way, in a safe way, outside of their car if possible. So, this will obviously build on all the great active transportation plans that local communities have done. We've tried to incorporate into the RTP, and now we just want to take a more refined look at getting people from center to center, and not quite sure how this is going to work out, right? It might not be a network that connects every center to every center, but we'll take a look at what makes the most sense. And Stephanie Tom was on the call earlier, maybe she's still here, and right, leading the Utah Trails Network now. And so these two efforts will be dovetailing and speaking to one another as we move forward. So we're just getting underway, excited about this, wanted to let you all know about it so that those that want to be more, we'll definitely be doing outreach, make no mistake about that, and coordinating with you all. But if there are some of you that would like to be more involved than others, shoot me an email or put it in the chat and just say, yes, please keep me more involved than the regular updates we'll do with this committee moving forward, and some of the more general outreach we'll do with you as cities. But again, excited about this, and I think it dovetails well with both the Utah Trail Network and this Great Streets effort that's been going on. Anything to add, Ted or Julie? Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thanks, Hugh. And I imagine people can yeah, email you if they want to be more involved or with questions. It sounds like another exciting project that I hope we'll continue to hear more about on this call. Okay, let's move on to our transportation and land use connection discussion. It looks like Christy's going to be handling that. You want to take that away?
Yeah, thanks, Samantha. Let me just share my screen really quick. Okay, so I believe that most of the communities are either aware of Transportation Land Use Connection Program or have worked with us before. So I'll just do a quick background on that. The main intent of this agenda item is to plant a seed in the community's minds, get them thinking about potential projects they'd like to apply for this next cycle. So the TLC program is a partnership program with UDOT, UTA, Salt Lake County, and Wasatch Front. The goals of the program are to maximize value of investment in public infrastructure, enhance access opportunities, increase travel options, optimize mobility, and create communities with opportunities to live, work, and play. So we can fund a variety of projects. We'll just, depending on what your needs are, we can meet, the communities wherever they are, whether you're starting, at the highest level or getting down into the nitty gritty. We can fund visions, zoning ordinances, implementation strategies, all sorts of projects that link transportation and land use. If you have any questions about any potential projects, if it's eligible, or just discuss them with us, we're happy to talk about that. Just as a quick side note reminder, we also have another pot of funding for station area planning. If you're ready to get into your station area plan, that application is open on a rolling basis, so you can apply for that at any time. So here is a high level timeline of the TLC program. Obviously we're in summer right now, so we're exploring potential projects. So again, if you have project ideas, we'd love to talk with you about them. And then the next step will be in the fall when letters of intent are due in September. So if anyone has any questions or anything about a potential TLC project, you can ask it now, or you can reach out to anyone in the CED group and we will be happy to chat with you. And I'll drop my email in the chat as well.
Great, thank you, Christy. I can personally attest to the value of TLC. We are working on multiple TLC projects right now, and it's been a great source of support for some of our work here. Does anybody have any questions for Christy on TLC? Just gonna click through here and see if anyone's unmuting or has hands raised. Okay, everyone must be pretty familiar with TLC in this group, but Christy has dropped her email in the chat if anyone has questions. I again can personally attest that we've before been like, hey, we don't know if this works or not, and the team has always been really helpful in kind of clarifying what grant would work for what we want to do.
Thanks,
okay, well, we are just moving right along here. Let's head into our other business section, and we'll start with you, Ted, for an update on the Guiding Our Growth effort.
This is going to be really brief. We will drop the link here in a second. I think you all have been following the Guiding Our Growth, but let me tell you what this is at a high level, or remind you. This is kicked off by the governor, and the idea is to have a shared conversation across all of Utah about how do we deal with this constant companion of ours. We've been growing, one of the fastest growing states for actually now, 4 decades. And so to think that growth is going to slow down is not a realistic idea for us. So what we can do then is ask ourselves, so how do we handle growth in a way that helps us maintain our quality of life the best? Now, so there's basically three big phases to this effort. The first phase was Envision Utah went around the state and did a set of listening sessions. What are the big issues that we're dealing with relative to growth? Let me give you the basic summary. It was things we already know. Hey, housing affordability is a serious issue. Water challenges, transportation and traffic, all modes, and then lastly, our parks and open spaces are getting left to death. But what's the future for parks and open space? Those four issue areas. So the second phase has been a process of saying, how do we address those four topic areas with our approach to handling growth? There is a survey that is out there right now. That survey closes at the end of August. It's a great opportunity, I think, for us as planners to share that survey with our residents, city newsletter, or what have you. I think we've shared some resources to help you shoot it out to your residents. And we'll resend that again as follow-up to this technical advisory committee. But I want to just highlight that there's the possibility, if you get enough responses in your community, that it can help you understand where your residents sit on these kinds of questions. It could possibly help you with something like a general plan update or what have you. Now, I toyed around with sharing some preliminary results here, and I think that it's on balance, it's better for us to wait until we get down to closer or past the date of closing the survey. But I just wanted to mainly kind of remind you about this, suggest and ask that you, if you can, get it out there again, and just do a quick little plug. And I know that there are some of you that are participating in the technical committee or what have you. Samantha is one of them that is participating. And if you have other thoughts you want to share about this, by all means. Thanks, Samantha, for putting the link in.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I'm glad, Ted, that you mentioned the resources for communities to put it on their social media or their newsletters. We used that social media toolkit to do something with our social media accounts, and it was very, very easy. So if that could be resent out to everybody, I think that would be awesome.
You got it. And now let me, I realize I didn't talk about the third phase. I'll just briefly say, so where's this headed? We're working that out together, and the technical committee will weigh in on where we headed. But I think part of the survey, when you take it, if you haven't taken it yet, it's partly about approaches to dealing with growth and partly about what are the, let's call them policy big ideas. And a lot of that, honestly, is all of this is like a conversation. It's not forcing anybody or to do this or that or the other. But following up on this, I think there will be some conversations of, so what should we each do in our own sphere that takes this direction from Utahns? And so we'll have some conversations regionally. I think we'll have some conversations among planners, and more to come on that, and would love to have you be plugged in. I'll also just throw out, look, if you want to be engaged in this and kind of think about, you know, how does this thing land, and you want to be part of the technical advisory committee, would love to have you, and please let me know for that. Cody's on here as well. Cody, do you want to add anything else?
No, but I think you covered it well. Thanks, Ted.
Okay.
I did just add my email to the chat. Once the survey closes in August, I've got access to the Qualtrics, so I can send results specific to your city if you're interested.
Thanks, Cody. Thanks, Samantha.
Great, thanks for that update. Ted, does anybody have questions for Ted or for the Envision Utah team about guiding our growth? Well, it sounds like there's some resources if you do have questions, or if, yeah, you do want to see some of the more localized results, once that survey closes. I'm definitely excited to see what information we get from it. Okay, so I think now we're going to move on to, we'll turn it back to Hugh again to talk about the RAISE grant.
Thanks. Yeah, back to me. Hopefully some of you have heard that our region did receive a RAISE grant. It was a really competitive federal grant. We've received some in the past, but excited about this one, and a package of projects was put together, 15 projects in 9 cities, focused on first and last mile connections to and from transit stations and stops, and focused on traditionally under resourced areas where those transit stops and stations were. And there's about $30 million worth of projects, and we received about $25 million in federal grant, which is really awesome, and excited about this. This was really spearheaded by UDOT, UTA, WFRC, MAG. And as you can see on the screen, of the 9 cities that participated, 7 of them are in the Salt Lake Valley area, right? So you all here on this call today, and of the 15 projects, 12 of them are here in the Salt Lake Valley. So really excited about the investment that's coming to improve access to transit in these traditionally underserved and under-resourced areas. And if you haven't heard from me yet, and you're on this call, and you're one of these cities here, you will shortly. We've been working with UDOT to understand next steps, get under contract with the US DOT and how that works. But also we'll be in touch with you. For those cities that are on here, I know, I think everybody is maybe on a call here today that Stephanie Tomlin mentioned the TIF FLM, or first last mile nominations are open, and your projects that are awarded in the federal grant here can receive their match money through that UDOT program. So if you're interested in that, let's talk and think about it, move forward. I don't think Angelo's on the call still, although he was earlier. If you are still here, Angelo, is there anything you'd like to add? I just didn't see your name pop up a second ago. Angela's been really key in driving this process forward. So again, congratulations to all the cities, and it's a great win for our region. Thanks.
Yeah, it looks like Angelo did maybe hop off, but I'm sure that he would also be willing to answer questions if people have them. I was wondering, Hugh, if it's at a point yet where you could share what some of the projects will be that were selected or awarded, or if that's just not quite known yet.
No, I absolutely can. It's a good question. So in the Ogden area, they have a project that is a shared use path along with intersection improvements that will go to the new BRT stations up in Ogden that's launching this fall. Salt Lake City is working on State Street for their Green Loop system along State Street, shared use path system there. South Salt Lake working on buffered bike lanes, Main Street and West Temple, Magna downtown revitalization, so sidewalk improvements there in the Magna area. West Valley has 2 projects, buffered bike lanes and sidewalks and bike lanes on 4800 West and 2200 West. Mill Creek has a multi-use path section that's going in there. Let's see. Midvale has a number of projects. They have a couple of bike lanes, including a protected bike lane on Center Street, a multi-use path, and a buffered bike lane. Sandy has 2 canal trail shared use paths that are going in, and Provo has a buffered bike lane and a neighborhood bikeway that are going in. So that's kind of again, first last mile, so sidewalk and bike infrastructure across the region.
Awesome. It sounds like they span the full gamut of what can be included, as well as the full geographical gamut. So that's exciting. And I hope that as we hear community highlights from some of those communities, that you'll share more with us about the projects in your communities.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Any questions for Hugh on the RAISE grant, or anybody who has received funding for one of those projects, do you want to add anything? Okay. Seeing none, I'm gonna move us on here to the end of the meeting. I don't think anyone will be put out by ending a little bit early today. So our next meeting will be September 13th, and we're hoping to do this as an in-person meeting. We, back in the day, I'm sure a lot of you will recall, had in-person Plan TAC meetings. And of course, the virtual format is really great. And I think for the majority of the meetings, we should keep doing it that way. But I do think there's something to be said for having the opportunity to connect in person as well. So we're hoping to do an in-person meeting for our next gathering. And to that end, we are kind of brainstorming possible locations for that. So I did want to say, if anybody here has a location in their community that they think would be a good fit, maybe it's a room in your city hall or another community building, you know, please let me know. We would love to have the opportunity to kind of come around to the different areas in our region and get to see those communities a little bit more closely. Does anyone have any final business, anything else that you want to add before we disconnect? Do a final scan here of all your little tiles.
Samantha, do you want to see if we can lock down that location right now, or just have people reach out?
If anyone at this point is willing to kind of offer up a suggestion, I think that's great. I do feel like sometimes with facilities, it's like, well, we got to check with our rental calendar, we got to check with our facilities group. So, you know, no pressure if people aren't ready to commit right now. But yeah, I will open that up if anyone has. Looks like Mayor Burton is very hospitable and would love to have us come to West Jordan. So maybe we can, I think we should take you up on that, Mayor, and maybe have that as our next location. So we'll coordinate with you offline. And yeah, I guess everybody can plan on our next agenda having some information for an in-person meeting, and hope to see many of you there. Great. Well, we just have one more item here. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do I have to do a second on that? Does anyone know?
No, you don't need to.
Okay, great. Then we're adjourned. Have a great rest of your day, everybody.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Samantha.
Thanks, Samantha. Thanks,
Have a good
everybody.
one.